If you live in Los Angeles, you can find good schools, public, charter, Catholic, private, you name it. You can find what you're looking for. But like everything in LA, it's not always free. Let me rephrase. When it comes to Los Angeles, most things worth having are in fact not free. So if you are in the market for a school for your child, but you're not sure exactly how to pay for it, well, you've come to the right place. Today is part 3 in a 5-part mini-series with LA Catholic school leaders. Today's topic, you guessed it, 3 steps to financing a Catholic education. Theresa and Andrew will walk you through exactly what to do, how to do it, and where to find what you need. Oh, I love this episode. Catholic Education Foundation has helped fund the education of over 100,000 students across LA Catholic schools and are looking to fund more. Theresa and Andrew want to help you understand all of your options before making any final decisions for your child's future. As parents, you may have many expenses when it comes to your child, but remember, education is not an expense, but rather an investment. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I believe that education, and I mean TK to 12 plus college, is all about who your child will meet and eat with, mentors they will engage and learn from, ideas they will discover and act on, and oh, the places they will go. That, my friends, is real investment. Your child's happy future. Sit tight, everyone. You're in for a doozy. Enjoy. You're listening to Destination University, a podcast for college-bound teens and the parents and mentors and educators who support them. If that is you, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Welcome to our special mini-series with the LA Catholic schools. With over 250 schools in Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Los Angeles County, it is the largest Catholic school district in the country. Today, we're talking all things financial, scholarship dollars, and resources from the Catholic Education Foundation. We're joined today with Theresa and Andrew, leaders at CEF. CEF supports over 10,000 students per year, and they have awarded more than $225 million and counting. You're in for a treat for sure. If you are ready to consider a Catholic education for your child, but you're not sure just how you'll cover the cost, this episode is definitely for you. So just stick around. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Cynthia Colon. Welcome to Destination University, where we explore extraordinary people who lived ordinary childhoods and found a pathway to college and beyond. By being here today makes you a rock star, just like Theresa and Andrew. So congratulations and welcome. All right. Well, hello. Welcome, Theresa and Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Colon.
How are you both doing today? I see that you're in your offices. You're all set up. Theresa, what are you doing?
We are. We're excited to finally all be together and brainstorming and working together and going on with our mission. We're very excited.
I know. How about you, Andrew? It's been a while since I've seen you in person, so it's nice to see you here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been a while since anyone's seen me in person. For the most part, everyone's been doing a lot of Zoom meetings and whatnot, but it's great to see you.
Great. Well, I'm excited. The series has been really wonderful. Kicked off with Paul Escala, superintendent of schools, and just his story and how it's being laid out. It's a really a compelling case that he makes for the choice of Catholic schools. And I dare say, I'm going to just say that really his mother makes. When I listen to his story, it's really his mom that got to me, of like how she sacrificed and what she did and why she made the choice of Catholic school so early on. So this is my favorite part. Don't tell Paul I said that. This is going to be my favorite episode because it's so important. And when I was a principal, I knew how critical the finances were to every single family, because it's definitely worth the investment. So let's start with the first question, which you guys can decide who wants to start first, but talk about an investment versus sort of, spending on something, an expense versus an investment. So how do you talk to families about that difference?
Well, I'll go first, and Andrew can definitely add on because there's just so much here. As you mentioned, it's a parent's, decision, and it's a huge decision for them, a huge financial decision. When I think about it, even with my own children, and in deciding to place your children in a Catholic school, I often think the number of hours they're sitting in a classroom in any school, and they're within a school with teachers and peers far more time than they are at home with family. So our Catholic schools have become an extension of home in many, many cases. In some of the inner city schools that we fund several children as well, it has become home. And so this is primary reason, at least even when I thought about placing my children in a Catholic school and understanding that, what would be available to me as far as financial aid or not, that was the impetus that I wanted them to be in a place that was nourishing, nurturing, Catholic. It had the values. It was an extension of my family, and they would have that same feeling and support constantly from the time they arrived until they left, because everything, and Andrew will let you know as well, but just everything is infused into everything that they teach, the full curriculum, from the time that you arrive until you leave later that afternoon. So if Andrew would like to add.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, everybody talks about sort of the extension of home, the moral values that we find at our Catholic schools. And yet sometimes there's the obstacle of thinking, how can I afford that? So Andrew, what do you add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. As Theresa mentioned, the biggest thing that differentiates a Catholic school education into being an investment as opposed to being an expense is just that the value that there is in it, and not just in the short term in terms of being able to see the short-term development of your students, from K to first or first to second, whatever the case may be, but also long-term, and seeing how they are developed into whole people. And ultimately, that's one of the things that the Catholic schools do great, is they educate the whole person. Faith and character development have been at the heart of Catholic education since its inception. And I think that's one of the things that we do tremendously well in our Catholic schools is just that, educate the whole person and make sure that a Catholic education ultimately becomes an advantage for life because of that.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. I mean, it is about, I love what you said about it's the long-term sort of over time. Yes, from year to year, you'll see growth, but it's developing the whole person. And that is at the core of our Catholic schools. So excellent.
And it's not unusual that we see our core tuition award recipients, when we interview them, even as children and then all the way as seniors, their main goal is to come back and help their community, to help their families. So it's instilled since they're very young that you're meant to serve. You're here to continue serving others. And I see that time and time again. Wouldn't you agree, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing the success of Catholic school students, even in comparisons like their public school counterparts, especially whether it's when looking at long-term outcomes, colleges and things of that nature, especially in the underserved communities where we have Catholic schools as well. Those, I think, are the starkest contrasts that we see within that. But even in more kind of middle class or upper class communities as well, I think once again there's a differentiation between a Catholic school student is sort of coming from a more kind of secular public school setting, as Theresa mentioned, that they have a heart to serve and a heart to serve others, and a willingness to come back and give back to their communities that is instilled in them through the Catholic school system.
Excellent. Now, I want to pick up on something that you just said, Andrew, that and we'll be able to talk specifically about CEF and the organization and the specific types of students that you serve, underserved students. But let's start by sort of the macro. In general, as any if any parent family is considering a LA Catholic school, the families come from a wide range of backgrounds, socioeconomic status. So let's start by sharing sort of what are some of the ways, multitude of ways that they can seek. What are the resources that a Catholic family might have to seek one of these opportunity at one of these schools?
Right. So the first step I would say is to look at your archdiocese, which here in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, we have an education foundation that helps to provide tuition assistance. Primarily, our main focus has been, underserved communities. Our mission is to serve the students who would be considered some of the neediest students in the Archdiocese. However, ultimately, we understand that there is need in other places, need being a relative term. And we actually have a very generous donor who recently has given an anonymous donation of $50 million over the next 5 years, specifically to help target new enrollment into Catholic schools, and also to help those parents that have historically not been able to been assisted by us, middle class, upper middle class families, to provide them tuition assistance as well, because we know that everyone's been hit hard during the pandemic, and those families obviously need help as well. And so through the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, you'd have our foundation that can assist. But I think most importantly is the school. Talk to your Catholic school that you're interested in, and they will kind of guide you into what resources are available, because you may be able to apply through the foundation here, or there may be internal aid at the parish level through the parish, or maybe through a foundation that gives specifically to that school. So the best source of resources in this case is always the school itself to help guide parents.
Exactly.
Okay, that's amazing. And yes, congratulations. We talked to Paul about the $50 million anonymous donation, which is amazing. And I hadn't read, but what you just said, Andrew, is to target new enrollment, which I love. And right. It sounds like it's going to target not just one specific socioeconomic status, but sort of across the board to help fill some of our schools. Theresa, what would you add to that in terms of what are the resources, or maybe share with our listeners who don't know, what is the approximate cost of an elementary, a middle school Catholic education, and then maybe what's the range at the high school level?
Well, again, obviously depending on whether they're in the inner city and what city they're in. The range is just within the inner city would range about between $35,000 to $4,000. We're looking at middle to upper middle. They can go anywhere between $5,000 and $6,000. So our core tuition award program is $1,000 for elementary school, $2,000 for high school. With this wonderful new funds we just received, Andrew and I were able to create tiered funding and giving a percentage of the actual tuition being charged. So this should really bring in a wide variety of socio-economic families, and hopefully also not just drive new families, but allow the schools money that they too, within their own budget, will also be able to continue bringing in new families as the year progresses.
Okay, so you just said there's a CEF, Catholic Education Foundation, awards or has traditionally awarded a $1,000 for the elementary/middle school and a $2,000 award for high school. I remember a number of my students had that award, but now you're going to be able to offer a percentage of the total tuition, which is probably more helpful.
Exactly.
Now, will this mean more dollars to the same number of families, or both more dollars and also more families?
This is actually above and beyond our current commitment. So we have we're going to be committing to the 10,000 students that we normally fund in terms of numbers, the 13 odd million dollars that we fund traditionally, and this $10 million is actually above and beyond that. It's $10 million for the next each year for the next 5 years potentially. And as you kind of mentioned, this is targeting, in some cases, families that we've never been able to reach before because of the just amount of need in the archdiocese and the limits in funding that we might have. Ultimately, the amount of funds that we have being finite, and this kind of allows us to target those families that traditionally we wouldn't have been able to necessarily reach to an extent that is going to be very significant for them and for ultimately the schools. As Theresa mentioned, we are having tiered funding. So for example, for a family of 4 making under 39,000, the tuition award could potentially be at least 50% of tuition for a family. And then we have 5 different tiers, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. On tier 5 being on the high end, a family of 4 making anywhere between 87,000 and 110,000. And that family could get a 10% tuition award for their new students coming into a Catholic school.
That's fantastic. I mean, it just speaks volumes as to how important this is, how important it is for you to serve the mission, which is to have as many Catholic students, Catholic students educated through the Catholic system. And, I don't know about anybody listening, but any percent, right, helps. It doesn't matter how much money it's never enough. When you have children at home, it's never enough to give them everything. So, okay. So, Theresa, I think you mentioned that the elementary school price can be somewhere between $3,500 and as much as $6,000.
Right.
With getting an award of about 1,000 from CEF. And then the high school level, this is just from what I remember. I don't know,
yes, high school can range from almost 3 times as much from an inner city perspective, as far as you're looking at an inner city tuition. I think on the lower end, Andrew, it's about $10,000 on average, and obviously it can range, 12, 13,000. Some of the privates are a lot more than that. Right. We fund, traditionally we fund parish and archdiocesan high schools. Privates, we fund St. Mary's Academy, Cathedral High School, because of the community that they serve. They serve predominantly lower income families. And then Bishop Garcia Diego, because it is the only Catholic high school in the city of Santa Barbara. So those would be the only 3 privates we fund in our core tuition award program. And this particular program with this new enrollment initiative of 50 million, we are giving actually supplemental awards. So the programming for this and the funding for this is completely different. It's almost having 2 separate programs in one. So elementary, tiered funding, 5 different tiers, 10% to 50% of the tuition based on the family's income. And then we have the high school awards, which are supplemental awards to ours. And I'll let Andrew give a little more detail on that. And we're hoping that too really help families make a decision to place their children in Catholic school, as well as helping with that tuition bill that is 2 or 3 times more.
Great. Andrew, I'd love for you to expand on this, but just so let me just pause here for a second. Those of you who are listening or watching, there are 3 types of schools within LA Catholic schools. There are the parish schools, there are the archdiocesan schools, and there are the private schools. All the entire district is over 250 schools. I can't remember what the number is for just high schools alone. It's like over
50 schools.
About 50. Yeah, I knew it was about 50. Okay, so 50. So what Theresa's just described is that CEF, Catholic Education Foundation, primarily offers funding for those Catholic schools that are parish schools, meaning there is a school tied to literally the parish there. I can think of St. Monica's off the top of my head. And
Mary Stars High School, Holy Family.
Yeah, many of the elementary schools are tied to a parish school. Then there are archdiocese schools that are run and owned, essentially report to the archdiocese. And then there are private schools that have their own governing boards, or uh, I worked at Marymount, so I know that the
Right.
religious of the Sacred Heart of
Immaculate Heart,
Mary,
Mary
yeah,
Heart.
Immaculate Heart,
Yes.
Loyola,
Right. St. Francis, Loyola.
right?
Yeah.
They have
Providence.
they have their own board, separate,
Exactly.
and often also come with a higher tuition price tag.
Correct.
But they also have their own financial aid system. So, okay, good. I wanted to just clear that up for the person who's listening, going, "What is she talking about?"
Right. Right.
So, Andrew, just share a little bit more about sort of the high school piece.
Yeah, so at the high school level, essentially what we're doing is helping to supplement the internal school aid that the school would normally give out, so that they have more of that available. And ultimately, we'd be looking at, in this first year, possibly up to like $2 million in additional funding that these schools are getting to help to supplement their internal aid. So at this point in the year, most schools would have run out of internal aid to give out to families. And so what we're doing is kind of supercharging that for them and allowing them to go in and spend additional funds to recruit new families over the summer.
Wow, that's incredible. Hi, I'm super excited for y'all. Now, where do we, this is a little bit of a tangent, so
Sure.
where do schools find students in the summer, right? If they haven't been through the funnel, how does one get the attention of a family and to say, hey, we think you should consider a Catholic school? So I don't know. And I know I'm talking to other members of the leadership team over the next couple of days, but what do they do, or what do you guys do?
So they come from various different places. One group would be the students who had originally decided not to attend a Catholic school in their 8th grade to 9th grade transition. There are roughly about 70 to 80% of our 8th graders going on into 9th grade choose a Catholic school, whether it's a parish, archdiocesan, or private Catholic school. And so that leaves about 20 to 30% of families who are choosing to send their kids to either public school or charter schools for various reasons, but the majority of these reasons being finances, and there not being enough aid. And so this kind of grants those families an opportunity to possibly receive a little bit more aid to make it work, and to be able to make the necessary sacrifices on their end to send their students to Catholic school. Another avenue would be students who possibly had come from a public school setting and had inquired about Catholic school, but perhaps there just wasn't enough financial aid as well available to them to be able to make it work. Especially coming from a public school setting, it might not necessarily be something that they're used to in terms of paying tuition, and so that kind of culture shock in itself might have kind of scared them away. But this once again grants an opportunity for them to receive a little bit more aid and possibly make that commitment and take that step to go to a Catholic school. Beyond that, a lot of it is just word of mouth, parents talking to other parents, and a lot of students in particular, due to the pandemic, not being happy with Zoom learning and distance learning and things of that nature. And even when a lot of these families are being welcomed back onto their public school campuses, they're finding out that it's not how it used to be, and you're not going to 6 or 7 different classes a day and learning in front of 6 or 7 different teachers. In some cases, it's students sitting in a classroom and taking all of their courses over Zoom, but on a school campus as opposed to at home. And so, if that's not satisfying to you as a parent or as a student, our Catholic schools are actually teaching in person and having, different teachers teach different courses ultimately in person. So that's a distinction, I think, that in particular with the current times that we're in makes a big difference for families.
There's also pastors with parishes. They're reaching out over the pulpit as well. And then CEF just launched on June 15th a huge marketing campaign. We've never done anything like this before. And so we're hoping that this too will help trigger new enrollment across the board. We've done Spanish radio, done print, social media. Of course, different podcast interviews. Andrew and I started right in the first week of June, or last weeks of May, and we're already getting responses. Here are our phone lines, Department of Catholic Schools, and some of the schools as well. So we're really pushing this out, and our marketing blitz will go all the way through the end of summer. And then we've actually hired someone that will work one-on-one with many of our families so that to help market it at a grassroots level. And we are providing all the collateral. We don't want them to have to worry about this resources. We are providing everything for free. All the collateral, their banners or flyers, anything that needs to go into their website, we're doing it all for them.
Ah, this is like music to my ears. This is amazing. So good. So my next question, this is perfect. Thank you, Theresa, for setting it up so well. So as you know, my world is college, helping families navigate from the high school to transition into college. So one of the biggest questions, and I don't know all the answers, but it's always like financial aid. What do I do? So, but I do know enough to say you've got to fill out the FAFSA, and this is where you find the deadline and the CSS profile if you're applying to private colleges. And this, I can at least tell them what the steps are and where to get the information, and then sort of follow the breadcrumbs. So I don't know that process for you. So can you walk me and our listeners and viewers through what are the steps? Now I'm a mom, or a parent. And yes, you've convinced me, Paul's convinced me, I want to do this. So now what would I do next to start to, and I don't know if there's a FAFSA, what are the steps to get financial aid at the Catholic school?
Well, the first step, and I think Andrew will walk you through the primary process, but one thing is very interesting is that when we created our tuition award application, looked at FAFSA. I wanted all of our families to get used to filling out a form that looked like FAFSA, so that when the time came and they were online looking at FAFSA, they said, I can do this. I've done CEF for the last 10 years. This is a piece of cake. So that was part of the process as well. In English and in Spanish, we wanted to make sure they were comfortable year after year, especially our renewals, that was very familiar to them. Secondary, the main thing obviously is you need to just go straight to your Catholic school, the school you're interested in enrolling your child. You need to go there first, because we will be working with the school at that point. It's easier for us to work with 200 schools versus 15 to 18,000 families, which is the intake of applications we get in a single year. So we do receive almost as many applications for tuition assistance through all the various programs that we have, as many as most major universities. And so I'm going to let Andrew take it from there, because he will literally walk you through what the full process is.
So as Theresa mentioned, the most important thing ultimately is to find a Catholic school. So through lacatholicschools.org, you can go online, enter in your zip code, and it'll give you the surrounding Catholic schools in your area. From there, it's time to choose a Catholic school. And ultimately, you need to do your research and find a school that fits your needs, fits your family's needs, that meets your family's values. As Theresa mentioned, these schools ultimately become an extension of your family, and your students are on campus for a significant amount of their day, and so you want families that schools that kind of meet your values. Once you do that, whether it's through campus tours or speaking with the administration over the phone, or perhaps even Zoom interviews over Zoom or whatnot, then ultimately you want to talk to that school about enrollment. And if financial aid is a necessity, speaking specifically about the financial aid that's available to them at their school. And as I mentioned before, there may be financial aid available through the parish. There may be financial aid available from the school. There may be foundations that specifically fund certain schools. And ultimately, there may be funds available from the Catholic Education Foundation as well. But the first resource to any of that would be to talk to the school and see what financial aid is available through them. Ultimately, if you are looking at one of the LA Catholic schools and you are a new enrollee, you want to ask your Catholic school specifically about the new enrollment initiative that we have going on at the Catholic Education Foundation. and hopefully have them give you an application to fill it out, to send that in to us to be considered for funding in this new program.
Those are all hot tips.
Absolutely. And the beauty about this new program is, I know you're familiar with our tuition award application process. Normally there's certain deadlines and everything has to be done by a deadline. And then we finally give everyone their status. With this particular program, we will be giving notification on the status of an app within 72 hours.
What?
Yes, we will turn around the answer within 72 hours. We want to make sure our schools do not miss the opportunity to enroll a new student. We want families to be able to be ahead. So this summer, we're going to be actually tomorrow, July 1st is the beginning date of when we're pushing out the applications, receiving applications. Everything goes live at that point. And we do a 72-hour turnaround.
Oh my goodness. This is amazing. This is amazing. Did you have to hire new staff to make all this happen?
Well, honestly, because of the pandemic, we had to increase our staff for programs. I normally hire seasonal temps and they've been amazing. And so what we've done is we used to do one-on-one with our families to process apps, and we went via Zoom appointments. So it took longer, but it was really helpful because we didn't want families to miss that opportunity to have a Zoom meeting like I'm meeting with you right now and walking them through a full application process. But now, so we kept our staff knowing that this was coming. And so we'll have a core number of our program team working only for this particular initiative, while the others are finalizing our core program. So yes, all hands on deck, even mine.
Yeah.
Reviewing applications. Absolutely.
That is amazing. Now I picked up, I'm just going to repeat a few things just for, I like to say, listeners that take notes. These are some golden nuggets. So Theresa said that you process as many financial aid application or scholarship applications as a small university would.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing for this district. And then Andrew, just to reiterate, LACatholicSchools.org. LACatholicSchools.org. That is where you would go, type in your zip code, and it will pop up the different colleges. That's colleges on the brain. High schools and elementary schools, Catholic schools that are in your local area. So, and then also to pick up on something that Paul said in the episode 1, building relationships with your school, the school that ultimately that you want to go to, tour, Zoom, or talk to the different people there. And that's going to be the basis of your information. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, so good, you guys. Okay. So my last question is a question I asked for all of the guests, no matter who they are, whether they're presidents of colleges or it doesn't matter who I'm interviewing, but can you, each of you, think of one story, one family that sticks in your mind? So offer a tip or a tale or a truth. But most guests love to share a story about a family or a student that sticks in their brain from having done the work that you do. So I don't know who wants to start, but share with our listeners.
Ken, I've been there 25 years. I've read probably hundreds of thousands of applications, met many families, and I love all of their stories. Some are extremely sad, but at the end of the day, I love how heroic all the families are when they decide to make this decision to raise their children. But I love my story of those that return to teach in our Catholic schools, that are leaders in our Catholic schools. There's so many of them. I mean, and we've hired many of them. We had Luis, who was a graduate of Bishop Morris Salesian. He and Alex Chacon, who's currently the principal, were in high school together at Salesian. They went to Georgetown. They left East LA to go to Georgetown. They remember being, homesick and being never having traveled outside of California like this, to study, and then returning to their alma mater, both of them to teach. And now Alex is, principal or president of the school. those stories just are inspiring, and there's so many more out there, and those are the ones that are the closest. And he's with us all the time. We do so many things with Alex and the families at Bishop at Salesian, and I remember those. We've hired at least 3 different alumni to come because one decided she felt she needed to give back in some way, and so she worked with us for about 2 years before heading out to Washington D.C. to do policy work.
Wow.
Those
Did
are the
you,
ones that stand in my most.
okay. Did you say Luis and Alex went to school at Salesian together, right?
Yes, yes,
Amazing. Amazing.
yeah,
Oh, I just talked to Alex yesterday.
yeah.
Andrew, what's something that you remember? What sticks with you?
Well, one of my favorite stories is actually Theresa's story. She
Oh,
did talk about it herself, but Teresa was a product of Catholic education, and the sacrifices that her parents had to make when she was a child to make sure that she received a Catholic education throughout her life, and ultimately, once again, the values that Catholic education instills in you, and that call to serve, and that's Theresa, that she's been serving for the last 25 years here at the foundation, and helping hundreds of thousands of students receive the same opportunities that she has.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so Paul is someone who is an alum of Catholic schools and returned to
yes.
serve. Then you mentioned Luis and Alex, and then Andrew just called you out, Theresa.
I know.
A shout out. But these are 4 stories that there are many others. And I love what, we started by talking about how this is the mission is to serve, right? I think Andrew was the one talking about the whole person, or developing the whole person that's also to serve others. So, yeah. Before I let you go, would you mind sharing, each of you, your own journey to college? At the end of the day, my world is college. So where did you go to high school, and how did you choose the college you chose?
Well, you're going to be very surprised. I didn't go. I didn't attend college. I went to Mary Star of the Sea High School. I went to St. Philomena. I went to Mary Star of the Sea High School. I actually became, obviously I went to become a court reporter, but then I got called in and took a job here, and I was working with all of their boards and all their committees, and the person that was handling all their programs was leaving, and they said, "Would you like to add this to what you're already doing here?" And I said, "Sure." And then this grew and grew, and then they asked to make a choice, and I said, I need to do this. I felt the mission of the work we were doing. I've grown and learned, and I felt like I went to the College of CEF. And Kathy Anderson was my mentor. She, amazing woman. And I often say, well, I went to the business school of Kathy Anderson. So the Anderson School of Business was Kathy Anderson. But predominantly, I am the one that has worked by living it full time, being immersed in it, and have slowly worked my way up this amazing organization.
What a story. What a story. I'm sure that the Anderson School of Business would give you a nice shout out.
Oh, yes, yes. She's still giving me some little free courses once in a while.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Ma, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Andrew, what's your story?
So I graduated from Verdugo Hills High School in Southern California, and from there got an academic scholarship to go to Cal State Northridge. Attended there. Once I graduated, I started working in construction management, and part-time, in addition to my full-time career, I was working as a youth minister in one of the parishes in San Fernando Valley, Santa Rosa de Lima. And from there, I kind of got called to service, and found this opportunity here at the foundation, and here I am about 8 or 9 years later. And it was my work here actually too that it helped to inspired me to get my master's from Gonzaga University as well.
Oh, go Zags. Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic. Amazing. Well, you two have been a wealth of knowledge and information that helped me understand a lot of things. As I said, those of you who have been following me may not know that I was once upon a time a principal.
Yes.
I worked at a number of different Catholic schools in the LA Catholic schools and served as a principal, and would have to figure out how to offer financial aid to all the families and make it work. So here is my wrap up. You've heard some tips and tales and some good truths from Theresa and Andrew. And here is the real truth. At the end of the day, what I learned from Andrew and Theresa is that the Catholic schools, not just the CEF, Catholic Education Foundation, but the Catholic school mission is at the end of the day all about mission. It's about having a calling, and it's about serving others. So if you're looking to figure out, is Catholic school worth it? Is this an expense or is this an investment? I will tell you now, the investment pays ROI, return on your investment. Ask yourself, what is your child worth? Are they worth this return on investment? You're going to get many more dividends. It's going to pay out many more dividends in the people they meet, the mentors they meet, the places they go, and who they become. That, at the end of the day, is the truth. Mission, calling, service. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us and spending some time. And hopefully you'll continue to join us. This is just episode 3 of a five-part series. And we know that your plate is full. So again, thank you for spending time. If this episode has in any way fueled your confidence or helped build your dreams, please share this episode with 3 people in the next 30 minutes. And if you're feeling extra loving today, please hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And also it helps other listeners find us and begin their journey to Destination University. That's all I have for you today, my dreamers. Be sure to tune in next time. Until then, wherever you are, may you have a happy and sunny day. Bye for now.